This is a tortoise habitat that I constructed that has 5 male tortoises in it. They're about 20-25 pounds, and you can see here I'm putting shiny material on the floor. This is surplus material I have. You could use it like emergency blankets. What this is an insulative layer for the floor. So we got plywood laying down here, and I'm going to put some spacers and plywood on top to make an air gap, which is an incredibly effective insulator for a floor. So you might be able to put foam down and put board on top of that. You could do that. This actually is like an R25 or 30, 1 inch of I think foam, or 1.5 inches foam. I think it's R5 or 6. So anyway, this whole video is to show you construction techniques which you can use to make your own habitat if you want. Like I said, I've got 5 Sulcata tortoises in here, and not that you are going to do this exactly. I mean, you could make this frame. I got this frame from somewhere. You could make your own type of frame out of this, but this is to give you some ideas on how to construct your own habitat. Right here you see on this end I'm making a sleeping area for the tortoises, and the way I'm doing that is I'm just basically going to heat this tarp. I've got it pulled up to section it out, so this will be kind of an adiabatic area. It's not, really technically that term, but it's an area that's going to be warmer than the other end. This area here is going to be, the area where they sleep, and they're going to get warm underneath here. And if they want to go out and eat in the other area, they can do that. I'm putting in the heat lamps, and this will heat this green tarp. So when they're underneath of it, they're basically fine. Because in the building here, it can get down to 32 degrees, but this has not been an issue. What you see me doing here is I'm using a 1-inch foam board, and I'm double sticky taped some hinges onto it, and I've got it affixed to the framing the way I want it to sit when it's acting like a door. That's what this is a door. And you'd be surprised at how strong this kind of foam board is. It's 1-inch foam board, and when I put the hinges on like that, I've double sticky them to basically keep them in place. And on the back side, I put little boards. You can see them right there, basically to screw through with a wide area that compresses. This is 300 pounds per square inch is the load bearing on a 1-inch board like that, and also the other boards that are below it. Incredibly strong. If you see here, I'm putting wing nuts on and a little metal spacer that screws into the metal framing in the back. Like I said, this could be wood. This is just a video to show you different techniques you could use to try to make your own habitat. Now, when you close this and you put those wing nuts on, this thing is flat. It's dimensionally stable. These load carrying flat pieces I put on there really help to carry the load. So it's really a good way to make a big swinging door and not have a lot of expense. It's real lightweight too. So the next step I'm going to be doing is going in here on this little end that's heated. The other end is insulated and everything, but it's going to be like maybe down to 45 or 50. Of this building is 30 degrees inside. This other area, the sleeping area, is going to be up around 59 degrees to 65 degrees. And right now I'm putting a little bit more of solar sheeting in there. It's basically an emergency blanket, and this basically keeps that heat in that area. Now, on a thing like this, just a technique you can use if you've got an issue like this where you've got open spaces at the top and the bottom on a framework you build, you basically sandwich the foam board between two pieces of wood right here. I've got a stick on the outside basically, and a bigger piece on the inside to act as a strength skirting. Up on the top, I'm doing the same thing. Now here is the tortoises, and I wish I had a view of the other side of them. Actually, this is the first time they actually go in and explore their new little habitat. Now you see, I've got a shed outside that basically has this type of sleeping arrangement in it. They slide under a tarp that's heated from the top for cold days in the spring and the fall. But they basically love to get under a tarp like this, where they can feel it on their shell. They can get it in a corner or beside the other ones or whatever they want, and basically feel protected. When they can feel their environment around them like they do in a burrow, they feel like they're protected. So you can see they're incredibly curious. You can see his shell right there, kind of poking around trying to find his way. Is there another one somewhere here? This is one of them. Like I said, there's 5 of them in there, and you can tell by just that shadow. He's a pretty big guy. This is stage 1 of this. Later on, I build a different version of this using the same habitat, which has a radiative heater in it. Once they start getting bigger, I actually build a different version of this, which has a radiative heater in the center, and I'll actually put that online as well. You can see right here where all 5 of them are underneath of the tarp, and you can see right here where I've put a string up, and the string basically helps it's got a bungee cord on it. It helps pull this tarp up so they can get underneath of it. So they don't have a way to push up too much with their head, their shell will get caught on that lip out there. But like I said, this is just showing you some techniques that I use, to try to make a habitat out of, common materials. And if you've got a bigger space like this, you could build this down on the floor. You don't have to build it up like I've got. I just had this framework available to me, so you could build it if you were using that insulation principle I showed you, where you basically put something down on the floor, put shiny insulation underneath there, create a shiny film, make an air gap, and then put a layer on top of that. That's excellent for putting it down on the floor. You build that out of 2x4s. So and then you can use foam board, which is cheap. You don't have to use plywood. Just make a wood frame for it, and that's all you need. And you do have to, on the edges, around the edges where you saw me put that little wood skirt earlier, you do have to go and make that taller, put metal flashing there so that they won't dig through, okay, because they will eventually want to get up and start riding up. Or one of them will get on top of another and realize that little shiny stuff is something they can dig. They'll find a way out. We had one instance of that. So just to recap, this is a video that I wanted to put together to show you techniques of how you can build a frame structure, build high efficient reflective barriers, use foam core board, and then use bigger, thicker ones for making doors. So it's very easy, very cheap, and it's a good way to create an isolated habitat for Sulcata tortoise. So like I said, there's 5 25-pound tortoises in this habitat. So